About 25 years ago, there was this group of men and women, mostly in their mid to upper 20s, and they got together to plant a church in India. And this church would live out the Great Commission to go and make disciples, to live into the Great Commandment to love God and others. So in other words, they would connect with people, they would work with them, disciple them, and they would create an environment where people would have the space to love God, love each other, and everyone else. And to those who were planting this church, this would be a different church than they'd ever experienced before. And their priorities looked like this triangle. They were going to love God, love others, and make disciples of Jesus Christ. Which is simple, yes? Repeatable, transformative. And so with great energy and focus, this ragtag, undereducated, naive group launched a new church. And much to their surprise, the church began to bear fruit. People were drawn to their work and their message. And under the leadership of a strong visionary evangelist, the church grew and began to live out its mission. And they experienced the power of a really simple, God-given mission. It was amazing. There was life change, and it began to occur in everyone. Men, women, and youth became transformed by this good news of Jesus' love. And spiritually dormant followers of Jesus became energized again and mobilized by the simple power of this message. And the biggest transformation out of everyone seemed to occur in the leaders themselves, who were in the front row to watch this movement unfold. But then something happened. And it was subtle, as it is in most churches, and I would say organizations and families and lives as well. It was well-intentioned, but slowly, as growth dictated, this young church saw the need to add certain priorities. And so they added new efforts to grow and disciple those who had been reached. They organized new forms of communication and connection. They even hired gifted leaders to do what needed to be done. Then they built a building. Their efforts actually looked like this square. Because here's the thing about churches, especially in the United States. When churches start to grow, these are the things they start to focus on. So programs, okay, how do we offer all these opportunities for people to grow and connect? Okay, we need to work on our facilities. Where can we meet to worship? And how do we run all these programs? And how do we pay for the building? And we look at our structure. How do we best arrange our programs? We look at our staff. Who are we paying to lead and teach? Here's what I want you to unequivocally hear from me. The square is important. There is nothing wrong with these 4 priorities. As a matter of fact, all 4 of these things must be present in a church in some way, usually. The problem is that often the square engulfs the triangle. The square becomes the first thing considered. The square, driven by programs, becomes how followers of Jesus define church. And the goal becomes engagement in programs and processes, and long forgotten at times is the transformation that comes from loving God, loving others, and making disciples. And all too often, churches start out with this passion to engage and change the world, only to end up in this complex struggle to build efficiency and structure. John Wesley, one of the founders of our Methodist movement, He saw this when he began preaching outside in the 18th century in England. People responded to his simple message of love and discipleship by the hundreds, by the thousands, but with more and more people came the need for systems to organize them. And ever since, the United Methodist Church has struggled with this transition from a movement to an institution. And so what causes the drift? Because I'm reading some of your minds right now. You're like, Jenny, we need those things. And you said they're not bad. So, like, what causes the drift? A couple of my thoughts. I look forward to hearing about yours. I think the square, it often feels more comfortable. We can live and measure in the square because it feels like we can control the square. That triangle, that's hard to measure. It's kind of slippery. Are we doing the triangle? I don't know, but I can show you we're doing the square. There is $1 on that budget sheet, and there is a staff member with a paycheck, and I can show you that. When people are you should see this thing pastors do. How's it going at your church? What do you think we answer? After fine, do you think we talk about the triangle or the square? All the time, the square. All the time. When we're asked how it's going, we often lift up programs or groups, or this is my pastor. Oh my gosh, how many people might have said, how's it going at Morningside? And you're like, let me tell you about our new pastor. No, that's okay, fine, whatever, right? But like, that's the square. Instead of like, there's kind of this season where we're really leaning into some growth and some new ways, and it's really beautiful, right? Like, there's just nuance to how we talk about how things are going, and it can seem at times like that square is way more important. I think we drift when our behaviors don't reflect what we really value. It's surprisingly easy for a faith community, or again, a family, a team at work, to truly believe we value one thing and then we behave in a way that conflicts that value. I truly have walked into churches who describe themselves as the most welcoming church on the planet until someone does sit in their seat. And they feel the ice cold, like, awkward, fine, I guess I'll sit over here. Like, what? And I get it. I'm a creature of habit also. But right, that is a moment where our behavior is conflicting with what we say we value. And people pick up on that in community.